Good evening, everyone. This is Mayor Tom O'Leary coming to you the Monday before our Tuesday night council meetings, trying to get in that routine so that I can, in one part, update viewers on the upcoming council meeting, and then answer questions. And there's certain topics where I can inform viewers of what may be going on and encourage them to come to council meetings. So let's kind of jump right into it. There's been a number of questions been asked recently about what's going on Portland Way and what kind of activity out there. I was just saying before we went on the air that as the Bell Store and Dairy Queen build out, it strikes me as reinforcing the need to get turn lanes put in out there. And so our efforts to work with ODOT to secure that funding are ongoing. We still have not heard anything. There's two parts to our proposal, and one involves safety funding and the other involves funding available to small cities and rural counties. So we'll continue to work that, and with or without the state money, we're going to have to come up with a way to widen, provide turn lanes for the access and the ongoing development that we expect out in that 598 northern corridor. So that's a project that we hope to be moving ahead on, and I think as you see some of the commercial development happen out there, it just reinforces the need of doing something out there. So I think that's something that you'll see. Tomorrow night there's a piece of legislation that really involves improvements that are out at the north of Brant Road, turn lane and improvements out at new access point off of 598, and all of that around finally getting the Valero 24-hour store open and doing some other infrastructure that council and myself feel like is real important to continuing the development out there in that area north of Brant Road, where the Sleep Inn and soon to be the 24 store. So that's legislation that's ongoing. Will start to happen tomorrow night, and I would encourage people to come and have any kind of comment or input on that. So, not sure with all kinds of activity in the community tonight and basketball on tap for the bottom of the hour. If we have any calls yet,
we have no questions yet.
Right? All right. Another item that I want to chat a little bit about is our paving program. I mentioned this 2 weeks ago when I was on discussing different items. We soon really hope to be able to let that contract much earlier in June or July. And as I look at the roads and drive them, one thing that catches my eye is South Street, where we're going to do effectively the first half of a project. May have a lot more subsurface repair, so when you mill off the top asphalt, with that, sometimes you can tell what you're going to be facing underneath, and sometimes there's surprises. And as I go out and look at that section, really from Harding Way to Atwood on South Street, it has all the telltale signs of being a road that when the top part is milled off, that we're going to have some additional filling of some bad spots before we resurface it. So already kind of looking at that and hoping that that's not a budget buster, but the good news is we're moving ahead early on that. I'm repeating myself when I mention this, but certainly the block on Harding Way between Union and Boston, out in front of Wendy's, if you will, that the condition of that part of Harding Way is really deteriorating quickly, and I need to do some things to get that done almost on an emergency basis. So that's really a lot of what we've got going on in the street area. I would compliment Councilwoman Earlston, who's really jumped into that and shown an interest in, jumped into her work on the Streets Committee and really shown an interest in giving us feedback on the kinds of projects we should be working on, and really happy to see the committee she chairs really getting into the street selection process in a way that we hadn't done in the past. Just one or two other items that I'll touch on and see if there are any commenters or any callers. The Amons shelter, which was completed and available for rental last year, but was handicapped in a certain sense because there was no bathroom. The bathrooms that were funded last year and constructed early this year will be inspected the end of this week, and we're real excited about having flushing toilets and water out there in a facility to complement that existing rental. So it's been a little discouraging to have that kind of a nice building and not really be able to have the restroom facilities. So we're excited about that, and a number of graduation parties, those type of activities that are real popular this time of year are taking shape, and that's a real positive. Probably the final item to discuss and really begin to promote throughout the community are the cost figures that have come back on the depot. The project has appeared from start to finish to be around a $2 million project to renovate it and modernize it, and the estimates that came in from the architect are in that range. There are a number of contingencies, and there's quite a bit of engineering and inspection services that are added to that number, but in about $2 million of physical improvements to the property is what the estimate is. What we're doing now is prioritizing those. There are some dollars in this year's city budget to improve the depot. They'll be able to tackle some of the, I think, major issues, mostly window replacement, repair, and making sure the roof is sound. The big challenge is going to be, as we go into, the city goes into 19 and 20, how we stage and tackle those projects, and quite honestly, how much money we're able, if any additional money, to secure because of our hope and our plan to utilize it as the bus station, and ultimately the bus station, but at least initially a headquarters for public transportation in the county through the SCAT organization that's really had a great, very successful first year and a half. So I encourage you to investigate more. The proposed use that came out of that architectural study is the transportation headquarters for SCAT, and then a museum, presumably a children's museum, that would occupy the main part of the first floor, and then the second floor be dedicated to different types of learning and science type hands-on experiences or adventures for for families. And I think the success of a similar type museum over in Mansfield suggests to people who've been planning this that there's plenty of a market there, and there really isn't anything, in my view, that teaches or allows young people in this community or in this area to understand the rich transportation history that North Central Ohio has experienced and is part of our legacy. So those are, I think, aspirations and goals, and now we have a dollar figure, and not only for fundraising but for engineering and planning, so that we know what we can afford and how to phase those improvements. So if it's quiet out there, I think that's, I'm not sure exactly what that indicates, but I do appreciate, as the people who are watching right now, as this is shared via Facebook, it fans out to just a remarkable number of viewers, and so we're encouraged at how it's been working in the past, and expect to be back in a couple of weeks. So tomorrow night, the main new item on the agenda for this upcoming meeting really is the bidding of the improvements out at 598, and on the 22nd there's a tentative date for groundbreaking for that new long discussed and a lot of hard work that went into the planning and the initial location of this Valero store. And I really am a believer that this is going to trigger additional development over the next several years. So it's an expenditure now that I believe will be an investment that'll be clear to Galion taxpayers and residents over the next several years. So with all that being said, and generally what happens here, folks, is that as soon as I sign off, there'll be 3 or 4 questions come in. So if that does happen again tonight, we'll put those questions back up on the city's Facebook site, and look forward to talking to you in the near future. Good night.